welcome to 20 Minutes with Afresia, which is part of the Afresia Bank Sustainability Summit. The summit is the annual flagship event of Afresia Bank since 2018. This annual summit marks the commitment of the bank to increase the global understanding, not only of sustainability in general, but in particular of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this year, thanks to COVID, a series of webinars is being organized around key sustainability topics to keep the dialogue ongoing. And our topic for today is digital transformation to build a sustainable business. My name is 𝐀𝐟𝐫𝐀𝐬𝐢𝐚 𝐖𝐞𝐵. I'm heading the development of Afresia's new digital platform, one of the pillars of the bank's digital transformation. And I have the privilege to be joined by Mark Israel. So just to introduce him briefly, Mark, serial entrepreneur, CEO of Altheims, formerly cloud director and CTO of Microsoft Sub-Saharan Africa. He's also a lecturer, a TEDx speaker, and as he says, first and foremost, a human being. I got that right, Mark?
Yeah, you got it right. Thanks, Delphine, for the introduction.
So before we start, I see that a lot of you have already found the chat box. So if you want to ask questions, please do so in the chat box, and we'll come back to them at the end of our chat, right? Okay, so let's go. Today we hear a lot about digital transformation, right? It's been a big thing, a big topic, even more so since the beginning of the pandemic. Now, even though digital transformation may mean different things to different people, one thing is kind of certain is that a lot of people, when you speak about digital transformation, it strikes fear in their heart, especially when you're a business owner or a manager. No need to fear. Mark, from your experience, how would you describe digital transformation in simple terms so that people can actually understand what that means?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I always love to answer those kind of questions, because the first part of the words, or digital transformation, immediately sparks a light of, oh, this is an IT thing, okay, because it's digital. Well, the thing is, the best way to describe digital transformation is, how do you transform the business, even the core business, so that it delivers more value to your various stakeholders through digital. So digital transformation is a means, not an end. If I answer briefly.
Yeah. And you were mentioning to me before, it's not as much a transformation, right? Because transformation is a really big word, right? It looks like you almost stop everything and start again. It's something else, right? We don't have to do a big bang thing for that.
Yeah, you're right, and we all know. I think that many people have seen that joke, that over the last year, saying, okay, who was the driver of digital transformation in your organization, the CEO, the CIO, or COVID? And everybody answers COVID. And yes, it was a kind of a wow thing that, we need to work from home, we need to change things. There was a lot of needed transformation, but actually most companies discovered that it was not a real transformation, it was an evolution. It was a kind of small changes that make big differences. So that's why I kind of dislike the digital transformation word. To me, it's more of a business evolution through digital. And that sounds maybe less marketing appealing, but it's less threatening as well. Is how you evaluate, you make an evolution of your business with some digital technologies. Right.
I think that's a great view. We should start that new fad, right, and call it digital evolution rather than transformation. It's less scary, as you say, and it's a lot more realistic as well, right? So why do business need to consider digital evolution?
Well, we have only 15 minutes, so that I'll try to be brief. But I think that's, to me, and every company I've worked with, during my tenure at Microsoft, or even with my consulting practice today, is really around, well, what are your pain points? Okay, where does your, if I can take a health parallel, is there's probably somewhere where you are bleeding or where you feel more pain. Okay, like a doctor, if you go to a doctor and say, okay, I'm feeling not good, you say it will take temperature, it will take a couple of things like that, and say it will try to find ways where he or she can help. And I think in the kind of a digital evolution, it's the same kind of thing. Is what really is your biggest issue, your biggest challenge? Is it customer engagement? Is it speed of delivery? Is it employee talent management? Those kind of things. So you need to understand, because if you manage to create a quick win in that particular aspect, then you are on your path. And because, as you said, it's an evolution. It's not a complete transformation. Well, it can be a transformation over time, but it's an evolution. And you cannot drive that evolution like a revolution. So it's really, fixing things one after the other. And maybe to take a parallel with what we see in startups is the build, measure, learn circle. So you try something, you measure what you have done, and then from that you learn and you build the next iteration, if that makes sense.
I think for many businesses as well, it's, so why? Because you want to fix pain points, but it's also a necessity, right? Because if you don't do it, then you're kind of left back, and your competitors will do it, and then you could be quite in big trouble, right? So in some cases, I think the going digital, if that's how we can say it, is more a necessity than a choice. Right? There's been some famous examples of companies actually going bust because they didn't take the digital approach. If you compare Blockbuster to Netflix, for example, where Blockbuster stays with the tapes and the DVD that you would pick and drop back at the shop, and Netflix went all digital. Well, we know the one who survived, right? So
yeah, but and you can apply the same logic in the financial sector, of course, where you are working. Now, if you don't have an internet banking facility at a bank, well, you're almost inexistent. I'm not even sure that there are banks without internet facilities or internet banking. So that's the kind of thing. But even probably you at Fraser, you're feeling the pressure from the fintechs. Okay, the guys who come up with solutions with less regulation or more flexibility. So it's a kind of you need to evolve.
And you're talking about internet banking, right? When we started off for that new digital platform that we're building, it's really because our customers, we've got an internet banking platform, but it's kind of dated, and our customers have been complaining about it. So, I mean, what kind of, you need to be able to evolve, and now you have the competition, and as you say, you have fintechs, you have digital banks. You have all these things and it's grown like mushrooms, I would say, and it's harsh, right? It's not as easy as it kind of used to be, I guess, even in the financial sector.
And I think, I was taking this example, of course, because, you're working at Fraser, and in the banking sector, things are moving very, very fast. And that's probably one of those technical sectors what we have seen such an evolution over the last 10, 12 years. But maybe to come back as well on the previous questions on the evolutions and focusing on fixing challenges or just trying to find the pain points, as well as what I realize sometimes, and I'm working with a couple of customers, for example, here in Mauritius, where sometimes it's not about the big things. It's not about creating, I would say, or purchasing new software or new digital platform. It's just changing the way you engage, let's say, employees. We're talking about improving productivity or just increasing competitivity, for example. You mentioned that. But increasing competitivity may just be, hey, how do I change the way I'm servicing customer, how my service desk works, for example. And sometimes it's leveraging what you already have from a digital capacity in-house. It's not about reinventing the wheel sometimes. It's just changing things, small things, and that's why it's an evolution and not a revolution.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you've made. And actually, just to try and kickstart for the people who are listening to us today, if they want to do apply digital evolution to their business, how do you start? Where do you start? Because it could be a bit overwhelming, right? So
yeah, and particularly when you're taking examples like, well, I've got a very good business that makes money, even in those difficult situation. But when you have a very sound business, why should you change? Okay, yes. Yeah, you may feel some pressure from any competitors. Of course, if you're in a very harsh situation, it's a kind of a survival mode. So you need to survive, and I think that's we'll come to that as well later. But to me, the biggest, I would say, there are two ways or two dimensions to look at any digital journey, if I can call that way. The first thing is, what is the more pressing thing? So what are my top priorities? Okay, and therefore, the other dimension would be, what could be the quickest win that I can have so that I build a trust to the journey. We all know that a 2,000-mile journey starts with one step. And what is the easiest step? So if you had, and basically that's an exercise I'm doing with customers, I say, hey, let's sit together. Let's not talk digital. Let's not talk solutions. Let's look at the overall business, okay? And let's look at all the supply chain, all the customer engagement, manufacturing processes, and everything. So it's a kind of an interesting discussion over a couple of hours. And when you open that kind of worm, if I can say so, well, there will be a couple of animals that will pop up and say, hey, you know what, this thing, we want to fix that thing for 2 years, okay? Let's tackle that first. And let's see if we can think differently, if we can think out of the box, if we can find maybe a solution that exists, if we can look at in our industry, somebody who did it. Okay, you're mentioning Netflix and Blockbuster. Say, hey, those guys are doing things that we're not doing, and they have great success. Maybe we can copy and try to do things that they're doing. So it's really finding the sweet spots that will make more sense, mm-hmm. and that will create that quick win on which you build the trust. Yeah.
So let's say step one really is to be honest about your own business, right? Have a good look at the business, at what's going well and what's probably not so well, and also maybe listen to your staff, because staff who have direct access to the customers, they might actually have a lot of feedback, and they will have a really good idea about what are the customers are complaining about, or what are they not so happy about, and that's a really good information to bring in when you're actually looking at improving things.
And I think that you're touching on a very important point, that digital transformation, digital evolution needs a sponsor at the top. So it needs to be driven by the executive committee, the CEO preferably, of course. So he or she defines the ultimate goal, but the ideas and the solutions may come from a bottom-up approach. So you really, as you say, you really think to your base, you really think to the employees. One thing that I love when I'm coaching startups as well, and again, I'm going back to the build, measure, learn circle, is it's very easy these days to do, a couple of customers polls, asking customers, okay, what do you think? Taking, small group of customers and bringing them onto discussions about what they like, what they don't like, what are their pains, how would they do things? Something I read about, and I'm asking people to do as well, is if you are at an executive position, go and spend a day at the service desk, okay? Be the service executive. Ask for customers complaining over the phone, and you will get 20 ideas to say, hey, we can improve that. And then you're on the good path. But it's really, it starts from the top, but it's driven by the bottom. So you need those two antagonist forces to really create the transformation.
All right, and it's necessary as well to be able to drive that change, right? And because you can't just drive the change from the top, because after all, it's everybody who will need to apply whatever you've dreamt about, right? The new changes, the evolution. Everybody will need to be in and to buy in that evolution, right?
And change, and sorry, change management is definitely something. Actually, one of the big examples I have in failed digital transformation happened a couple of years back, and actually it's a bank that I cannot name here, who doesn't happen to be a bank in Mauritius, but a big bank in mainland Africa. And they drove the whole thing, and they had so huge resistance coming from inside that the whole project basically, failed. It did not fail 100%. So we could manage basically to rethink how to do stuff, but it was really because it was not prepared, and the staff and all the employees said, no way. And it was a cultural problems in the end. And so we had basically to step back and try to listen to the employees, the customers, and say, okay, we're going to redo things. It was not that the purpose was bad. It was the way it was driven. And that's really important, that you're completely right. Change management is totally key in that kind of transformation of a business. Okay.
So let's summarize or take it back from the top. So step one, look at your business and be very honest and about your current situation, right? Step two, identify your pain points or your customers' pain points, or where you would like to go, right? Step three, ensure that you've got the buy-in from everyone to be able, because everyone will need to drive that change within the organization, right? So that's a lot of kind of preparation. Now, how do you make it happen? Once you know what you want to do, and once you've got everybody behind you, yes, that's what we're gonna do. Then how do you make it happen?
Just start. Well, a couple of ideas there, and as I said, it should be kickstart by the CEO preferably, so the head of the organization. It needs to be clearly said that this is the path. So digital transformation is an evolution of the company. There will be a lot of digital technologies, digital tools, and everything, but it's a change of processes. So first, it needs to be kickstarted. It needs to be as well on the board agenda, okay? And I cannot emphasize more that something that I love to do is addressing, for example, board members, saying, hey, if you're still using board minutes with paper, don't expect to drive digital transformation, okay? That's but joke aside, it's really that, and then probably having somebody who leads that journey. So who is the leader in that journey? So whether it's the CDO, the CFO, the CTO, the COO, I would say probably not the technology guys, actually, much more, putting that into the hands of the operations, for example. But having somebody who will be the driver of that big bus, okay? And then, as I said, you choose your problem, you choose your challenge, and you do it. And one thing which is very important is when you've started is communication is key. Change management is always key, but communication, over communicate, at least at the beginning. And then you tell what you're doing, put what I call champions in place. So people who can be your ambassadors as well, who will help making the transition within the employee community. And so it's really something that the whole company needs to be gathered around. The leader says, hey, we're going to drive that. So it may sound easy, but it's more difficult actually, because you need to move the organization.
Yes, that's right. You need to move the organization as a whole. So, right. What about people who might say, well, I don't have the technical skills in-house to actually do that, and digital evolution with digital, it's technology. So how am I going to do that? Or even worse, how much am I going to have to pay for all that tech?
Well, and it's an interesting question, because it's a kind of a conundrum actually. I truly believe that I would say the whole Pareto law applies. So the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the technology generally is already in-house. Okay. So it's not about acquiring new technology. It's much more about how can we do more with what we have. Okay. And so, as I said, it's a digital. Well, digital is a means. It's not the end. So and that could start by, okay, guys, let's call in the CIO or the CTO and let's ask that person, what do we have? Okay. What is outdated? What is in line? What we can upgrade. So, but doing a complete IT landscape, we exactly need to know where we are. And so, and you may be surprised that actually it may not require a lot of acquisitions. Okay. Mm-hmm. And therefore it's just leveraging what we currently have. It's changing the processes. It's leveraging things that we have. I got a customer currently who's just say, no, we are not going to acquire new technology, but we discovered that out of the technology they've acquired, 80% was unused. And so it's saying, hey, let's tap into those things that we have to see what we can do with it. Can we improve productivity? Can we improve collaboration? Can we improve customer engagement? So
that happens a lot. Yeah.
Yes, you may need help from consulting companies, from external people, from new hires. And it may require a budget, and I think that's something that you need anyway to put on the P&L somehow, somewhere, taking some money aside to drive that thing, because there will be communication, there will be engagement involved. But that may not cost a fortune in the end if you look at what you're having.
Yeah. So we're saying digital evolution. It doesn't need to. You don't need to scrap all you've got and get brand new technology to actually make it happen, right? In fact, I think it's a lot more to do with people than it is to do with technology.
And I would even say that if you scrap everything and start afresh, that's the best recipe for failure.
Because you've got to learn everything again.
Exactly.
And also it's even worse, right? Okay.
And that's why I was looking at some questions actually, about vendors and suppliers driven. I worked for Microsoft, so I cannot bite the hand that fed me for a long time, but never ever listen to suppliers. Or you can listen to them, but not fully.
Yes, I think. Well, the thing about that question, yes, I'm trying to find it. Something about how far digital transformation should be supplier driven. Yes, I totally agree with you that it should not be supplier driven, because you know your business, you know your customers, you know your processes, right? This is the most important thing. Then gradually changing that's okay. You might need some people to help you and with the skills that you lack internally, but the biggest thing you already have inside the company. So definitely not supplier driven. Thanks for the question. All right, so time for a few more questions. Oh no, there was something I wanted to ask you also, right? We kind of touched to that. So we said we're taking one thing, we're implementing it, then we monitor and improve. So that links to another topic that's very current, and another buzzword, which is being agile and flexible, right, in the implementation, where it's not you design what you want to do, and then 3 years later someone tells you this is what you wanted 3 years ago, and it's not relevant anymore. So it needs to be gradual.
True.
All right, so questions. What have we got? Oh, actually, Yusra made a point. I think after every call with customer service, there should be a poll to say if the customer service did provide the service. I guess that's in a comment to earlier point, to actually involve people who talk to the customers and involve the customers as well. So I wouldn't say maybe after each call, but certainly you need to get the input from your customers. Right, we did talk about costs associated with a digital transformation. So another question, priorities are investment in core business functions at the moment. How do we then invest in this technology?
Well, I think we addressed somehow some of it. I think it's digital transformation to me is a core business decision. It's not just a technology-driven decision. So yes, we may cut costs in the technology space, and we've seen many companies, or at least are freezing costs there. But I think it's a great opportunity, particularly these days, to look into what can we do with what we have. Okay, so it's not about reinventing something, repurchasing something. It's just what can we do with what we have, and so it's not always spending more, spending differently. But yeah, focusing on core business is key.
Yes. So it is core, right? As we mentioned earlier, because it's not always a choice to go digital. It's sometimes for some businesses a necessity, and so it's now digital has kind of become part of your core in a way. So very true, very true. I think we've covered that one as well. How do you tackle resistance to change within the organization when it comes to transforming processes and updating systems? So yes, we did mention that it's by involving people and making sure that you've got a buy-in. But one thing is very important, right? Digital evolution is not about cutting down jobs necessarily, right? It's being able to automate maybe where you can in order to free those people so they can provide better service to your customers, right? That's the whole idea. You're not taking the job away. You change it and make it actually more interesting, because for a lot of people, they do manual inputs or processes are very manual intensive, and being able to automate those processes mean that their time is freed, and instead of doing something repetitive, actually do something more interesting that adds value to the customer. Right. Any more questions?
I will let you answer this one. So should bank focus on cryptocurrency as new product? That's a tricky one.
That's a tricky one. I can't say. I'm not. It's an interesting an interesting subject, and not well. It is kind of to do with digital evolution when you think about it, and you're getting rid of the paper, and it's a new currency. There are two things, right, with the cryptocurrency. One is, yes, it's easy, and it might be kind of new, and it's fun, and it's secure and things like that. But the other side of it is, well, you don't necessarily know where it's coming from or where it's been. Because some of those cryptocurrencies actually really emphasize the fact that whatever you're doing, it's super secure, and nobody will know that it's you's got that money. And when today you have things like blacklists and fat of grey lists and things like that, maybe that's not exactly the transparency we need for those for the transactions and things. But it's definitely something that I'm talking for myself, right? I'm not talking about for Africa on that one. I think it will pick up. It will become useful. At the moment, it's not used that much. If you've got Bitcoins or Ethereum, so what are you going to do with them? But it will be there. I think crypto is here to last, and because of that, banks will have to somehow find a way to integrate them in their ecosystem. But as I said, that's my own view. I'm not talking for the bank on that one.
And maybe very quickly, because I know that we're short on time, but I think that the best position was the one of Jamie Dimon, the Morgan Chase boss in the US. A couple of years back, he says, well, crypto, Bitcoins and everything is a fad, blah, blah, blah. And then he threw the baby in the bathwater. And then a year later, he says, well, we're gonna create our own. Okay, yes. and JP Morgan Chase created their own crypto, which is not really a cryptocurrency per se. It's a kind of a Ripple-like, coin that allows basically transfers into banks. So, which is kind of different, but that's the whole idea. Yeah, I agree. It's not going to disappear. Maybe just quickly, because there is one last one, which is the footprint of data and digital transformation. This is one of my topic because I'm coming from a data background and I love data and everything. And I think that data is the new oil, as we was used to say. I wouldn't say data should be at the core of a digital transformation, but ultimately, and that's how I view the things, is ultimately it's one of the end goals is to leverage data, but that shouldn't be the main focus at the beginning. The main focus is really to increase the value you deliver to your end customers and your various stakeholders. If data can be tapped into, yes, but what I've seen is in many organizations, the data quality is poor, and if you wait for cleansing everything, well, you will wait too long, and you will be outpaced by competitors. So yes, it will have an impact, but at least depending on the quality of your data, not at the beginning. Don't focus there. Don't put your focus and energy there at first.
Yeah, I think it's good if you actually have data and you can use the data to validate the choices or the pain points that you've highlighted. If you can validate that through data, then that's brilliant. But I agree with you. It's not the focus at the beginning of the journey. Definitely. Right. Well, apparently we need to switch off.
Good things always have to end.
I know. Oh, yeah. It didn't seem like, wow, 35 minutes. Yes, we've gone way over time. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mark.
Pleasure.
For the chat. I think it's always a pleasure talking with you. And thank you very much for everyone who was on the call today.